Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm from Melbourne, Australia. It is 11:20 a.m., so it's Thursday. So I'm coming to you from the future, which is cool. I'm just going to share my screen. Cool. And I'll
We
just
can
put
see
that
it.
up. How
One
do I
thing to say,
move
I
it?
would say minimize. Oh, perfect. Nobody
Perfect. Yeah.
wants.
All right. Cool. So yeah, this presentation. Which way to the best map? So my background, I've been a data analyst for a very long time. I've worked in government. If any of you have worked in government, spatial data, everything is spatial data in government, and everything has a point, a latitude and a longitude. So I've seen a lot of maps over my time using the basic Power BI map. But my goal of this presentation is to show you what else is out there, to show you what the capabilities are and what else you can do with a map. So just some of my details there. I'm a founder at DataTale, my website, LinkedIn. I just started up a YouTube channel because I was too lazy in doing blogs, and now I've realized that creating videos is so much more work. But anyway, I've started it now, so I have to keep going. So feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And anyway, let's jump into the presentation. So just a little bit on the agenda on where we're going when looking in maps. So I'm going to be doing a three-way battle, I suppose, between ArcGIS, Mapbox, and your standard Power BI maps. And we're going to compare these three. We're going to look at circle, we're going to look at clusters, we're going to look at heat, we're going to look at shape maps, and we're going to look at base maps. And I know there's a few other bespoke solutions out there. We'll have a look at Azure Maps a little bit later at the end. It's still in preview. There's a few other maps out there, but I focused on these really, GIS solutions of Mapbox and ArcGIS, which are the two that I use the most. So just an example to, if you're not excited about maps, to get you a little bit excited about maps. This is the favorite map that I created when I was working in local government. They wanted to know where to put kindergartens, and they had no idea. The only way they knew was when a kindergarten was full, when its enrollments were full, it would send an email and say, my enrollments are full. And, this happened towards the end of the year. Um, but using data and obviously using Power BI, we were able to have a look and see how we can understand that spatially and how we can use data from two different data sources and bring it together. So if I just zoom in a little bit here. So what I have here, I'm using Mapbox, and I have these little houses here are kindergartens. And so these are the spatial place where a kindergarten is put, and the heat map is showing children 0 to 4. So this is from a different database. So it is maternal child health, which is where we look after children who are, getting their immunizations and things like that. So in this solution, what we did was, so you can see here are the kindergartens, and the red, the heat map is the 0 to 4s. So unfortunately in Power BI, you can't take, two different sets of data and put it on a map. So I'm kind of hacking it by making the kindergartens the background image. And then what you have is the children under 4. So straight away you can see, here in the next 4 years, there's going to be a lot of kids here who have to travel all the way up to these kindergartens. So, spatially, it really tells a story that we have an issue. Um, Unfortunately, they built a temporary kindergarten here because, they didn't have anyone to analyze the data. But seeing that here and pulling, different data sets in and visualizing and comparing them can tell a really powerful story. So let's jump into our comparisons. So I'm comparing Power BI Map, ArcGIS, and Mapbox. And for each section, I'm just giving them, out of 5 stars. So we'll start off with, oh, sorry, how do I move that? There. So we'll start, oh, sorry, there we go. So we've got the Power BI map. I've given it 3 out of 5 stars for doing circles. So I'll just zoom into this one. So the Power BI map is quite good, but it does have a major limitation that it can only take 3,500 points. So the data that I'm using here is accidents in Victoria, Melbourne. So we've got 8,000 latitude and longitudes on this map. And you can see here, it's only picked up 3,500 of them. So if ever you're using over 3,500 points, you're going to be limited by using the standard Power BI map, which is this one here. It does do the interesting pie chart. So when you have more than one latitude and longitude on the same point, it'll do a pie chart, which is cool. And it does have the ability to do, report tooltips or custom tooltips. So you can put whatever you want in there. So ArcGIS and Mapbox don't allow you to use report tooltips. So that's a plus for the standard map if you have under 3,500 points. So I've given that one 3 out of 5 stars. You can, with all these maps, when doing a circle, you can create the size here by severity. You can do that with all 3 of them. ArcGIS, but as with Mapbox, has a 30,000 point limit. If we expand the ArcGIS map. So again, I do have severity, larger bubbles with a larger severity. So severity 2 means it's a bigger accident than a 3 or a 4. You can do quite a bit with ArcGIS. ArcGIS is a little bit different that, usually we're controlling our visuals through here, through the format options. But with ArcGIS, it has inbuilt this little expand map tools. This came out a couple of months ago. They added this little yellow button and they're improving the UX of ArcGIS. And so everything is controlled within here. If I go to the layer list, and if I click on coordinates, so if I want to choose the type of map, I need to do it within here, click on the 3 dots and in symbology. And that's where, I've just got the location only and the various other maps that are your options in here, symbol styles, etc. What I do like about ArcGIS over Mapbox is this color ramp. GIS standards is more having a ramp than picking like a min and a max and a medium color, so a diverging color. ArcGIS has color ramps pre-built within here, which is more keeping with GIS standards. So that's one advantage over ArcGIS compared to Mapbox is this color ramp. So again, it doesn't have the custom tooltip. So if I hover in here, the nice thing though, you can see that's 863 points. So it does tell me that, it's a lot of points, probably too many points to actually use for a circle map anyway. But, the tooltip's kind of limited because there's so many points there and I can only see, it's telling me 1 of 147. Actually, sorry, I didn't want to show you. So we do also have a lasso. So first I'll show you there's a search box. So you can search for an address and it'll pin the address, which is cool. There is the lasso options. So this single select is if I just want to pick one point, but we do have the box select. So here I can click on here. Oh, did I get it? Click on that. Demo guards are acting up. There we go. So I can select a certain amount of points that I am interested in. And then obviously filter on the rest of your page if I see something interesting in this area. So if you're looking at doing circles, you've got over 3,500 points. ArcGIS is really good. It'll do pretty much everything you need to do except custom tooltips, which is a little bit annoying. And I do like using custom tooltips. It does have a search option and it does also have, I won't demo it, but it has a drive time option. So you can set 2 points in this analysis tools, this red one here, and you can set drive time. So if I'm interested in how long it takes to get from this point to this point, I can use this drive time option, and it'll tell me, as the eagle flies, what's the distance from here to there. So ArcGIS does everything you need for the circle. So I've given it 5 stars out of 5. If you haven't used it before, it doesn't require a license. It does have a sign in when you do use it for the first time, but everything that I'm showing you in ArcGIS today, I'm doing for free and without a license. Mapbox, I've given 4 out of 5 stars. It does essentially everything that I've shown you in ArcGIS. For the colors, though, it doesn't have, if I go into the circle option here, it doesn't have, so you can see it just has min, median, max. So not as good as ArcGIS that has the nice color ramp. I can just pick min, median, and max. I can pick highlight colors and transparency as well. Mapbox, you'll tend to find, has a lot more options in what you can do to customize it with opacity and stroke width. Here I've kind of got an orange line around each circle. The tooltip is actually pretty shocking with Mapbox. You saw in the example before when I hovered there, it was saying 1 of 145. In Mapbox, it just shows the top 3. But we know, as we saw before, there was like 100 here, but when I hover, it's only showing me 3. So it's not as great as ArcGIS, which is probably a bit of a pain with Mapbox. One advantage it does have, though, is with its lasso or box select, you do have the more lasso tool. So if I can make, awkward shapes, if for some reason I don't want to grab some circle there. So instead of just doing a box, you can do a lasso. So that is one advantage that it has over ArcGIS. So I probably would have given it 5 out of 5 as well, but there is a bug that I can show you with Mapbox. And this is a known bug, and hopefully they'll get around to fixing it. But if I select just one accident number, so I'll just pick this one here. When that zooms in, you can see it zooms in, but there's no point. When I click another one and I have 2 points on the map, you can see there's the point, and there's that other point there, the red and the green. So there's a bit of a bug at the moment that when you select one latitude and longitude or 1 point, that point just disappears. So that's a little bit annoying, especially when someone's using the map and selecting something and then they expect to zoom in. They're like, oh, where did the accident occur? It just disappears. So that's a little bit of a bug with circles. So I've just given it 4 out of 5 for that one. Hopefully they'll get around to fixing that bug. Another thing I mentioned is Mapbox. So if I publish this report to the web, which I haven't, ArcGIS doesn't work if I publish it to the web, where Mapbox does. So generally a lot of my work, I spend more time with Mapbox because I have clients who want to share their reports. It is on ArcGIS's roadmap, so it is coming out. They will have it, but currently you can't publish to the web. The next one we're going to look at is the cluster map. So there is no
quick question for you, Warren. Yep. I just saw
Yep.
this in the chat. I do want to bring it up. If we know the address, can we zoom to the data point and see it in 3D in ArcGIS?
Not in ArcGIS. In Mapbox has a. I'll come to 3D. So not with a circle, but with a shape map. You can do 3D. Azure maps, you can do like a 3D circle or cylinder. I'll show you that later. So yeah, if I entered an address, so I've put Melbourne, that's just going to it's just going to pin it. So it's not really connected to your data. It's just, showing you the spatial location. Same with ArcGIS. So if I know, I want to see accidents in Melbourne, it's just taking me to Melbourne. It's not this search box, and the same with ArcGIS. It's not connected to your data set.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And also, if anybody else has questions as they come up, please ping them in the chat so we can make this as collaborative as possible. So
Yeah,
thanks.
definitely. Actually, I should mention, so ArcGIS, I've shown you, ArcGIS is obviously, it's, if you've seen it, this little map here. Mapbox is a custom visual that you will need to install from the store, and it does require a license for you to use it. But you get charged based on how many views you have, and you need a lot of views to get charged. So I use it quite a bit, and I still haven't paid anything for it. So if you do want to get Mapbox, you will need to sign up and get a license for it. So for the cluster map, so clustering many points, which kind of makes sense when we have so many 8,000 points there, it was probably too many circles. You could do a cluster map. ArcGIS, it's a little bit limited in what you can do with the cluster map. I've given it 3 out of 5 stars. If we go into the options, and I'll show you what the options are. So in here, symbology. So I've picked on the cluster. You can see in here, all I can really do is set the radius and the color and the text. That's pretty much it. So really, I should reduce this radius from 50 pixels. I've probably got it too high in this example, but you can reduce that down. So we could do that, maybe make it 20. So that's a little bit better. So it's okay, but essentially that's all you can do. And as you zoom in, you're going to get more and more clusters. So here I have a lot more clusters as I move into areas. So 100, and I can see some high areas compared to some small areas. So that's your cluster map. Not much that you can do with ArcGIS with the cluster map. Mapbox has a little bit more options. So here you can see, if I jump into Mapbox and the options, so there we go. So cluster, so I can change my aggregations in Mapbox, so count sum, average, which is good. Again, I've got the same radius, but here, it actually shows all the points. Before, you could see it was only showing the east of Victoria, but here it does show all the points. I've got, again, a min and a max color. So before in ArcGIS was just showing red. Here it's got different colors based on the size of the cluster, which is good as well. Blur. So again, as always with Mapbox, you'll find there's a lot more customizable in what you can do. So here, when I zoom in, we'll get more circles. And Melbourne, which is in the middle, is going to have a lot more. So if I go away from Melbourne and go to a different area, hopefully that'll update. It's not going to. I was hoping that it would go a bit more blue when I moved away from Melbourne, but I think it's lagging a little bit for me.
Telephone tether. I'm impressed how you can at least share your screen though.
Yeah.
One question, Warren, somebody mentioned, and I think this is out of scope for your presentation, but just at a high level, how does any of this compare to the Azure Map Visual? Have you played with the Azure Map Visual much?
Yeah, we'll get there. I've got a tab at the end.
Okay. Gotcha.
I mean, it's still in preview, so that's why I kind of haven't included it yet, because it's still in preview. But I've got high hopes for it. It's got some very cool functionality. We'll get there.
Cool. Sorry.
No stress. All right. So the next one we're going to look at is heat maps. So for all 3 of these solutions, we can do a heat map. I will just zoom into the Power BI map. I've given the Power BI map, 3 out of 5 stars. It's pretty limited for a heat map. I'd really never use it. So I've got my latitude and longitudes in here, and at this level, it's working. I can see that Melbourne has more accidents than any regional areas. I can see a few regional hotspots, but as I zoom, it just disappears to nothing. So it kind of only works at one zoom level, which is a little bit frustrating. So here, if I go into heat map, I can set my radius, and then it just kind of sits at that radius. So I've set it up to work okay at this level, but then as I scroll in, it just kind of divulges into nothing. So it's only good if no one's ever going to zoom or select anything that's going to interact with your map. So I don't use that one as well. I have similar issues with the ArcGIS map as well. Again, so here at this level, I want to see all Victoria, and because all of them are really, there's a massive cluster in Melbourne where most accidents are, it just kind of hits Melbourne with a massive, sunspot. And as I zoom in, it does diverge a little bit, but still Melbourne's super powerful, and it's just kind of taking over everything. As I move away, it's acting as I expect. So there's not many options with the heat map either. So I'll go back to report. Mapbox, I've given 5 stars because it does, and it acts how I'd expect a user to interact with this map. So at a high level of Victoria, I can see that Melbourne is the hotspot. I can see the points everywhere, some higher clusters. Even up here in Mildura, I'm still seeing some clusters as well. But as I zoom in, they all kind of stay and acts as I expect. And as I move out, it's not acting, it's just staying at one point, which is okay because I can still see the points everywhere. Unlike the other ones when we zoomed in, and well, ArcGIS kind of moves as you zoom, but this one stays as it is, but at least it's at the right level that I can zoom right down and I can see the roads, and I can see, the main roads where there's been a lot of accidents, intersections, etc. I'll just check my notes. So again, Mapbox has a lot of options on the radius. By default, the radius is 5, and I think the intensity is 1, and you will need to customize that based on your data. So I've brought mine down to 2 and intensity at 0.1. Min, median, and max colors as well. So, and you can even control the zoom level, so it can disappear at certain zooms. Okay, so that's Mapbox for the heat map. So yeah, definitely if I'm using a heat map, I use Mapbox, and I don't use ArcGIS and the normal map for that one.
Question
Next
for you
up, we
before you go to the next one. Got a
yep.
great question that has to talk about data quality. If our data addresses are not accurate or complete, can we still link our addresses to ArcGIS to get more accurate locations? Have you seen, whether it's Power BI Map, ArcGIS, or Mapbox, have you seen incomplete data kind of hit the mark better via any of those services?
So really it depends on, so what I'm showing you right now is all latitude and longitudes. So what we're talking about is the location, and we drop an address in here, and then it's going to go away and geocode. So really that depends on the service that they use for geocoding. So the Power BI map will use Bing. I'm not sure what ArcGIS and Mapbox would use, but essentially they've probably got their own services, ArcGIS and Mapbox. It's all based down to the service and how well the service does its geocoding. So yeah, so I don't know off the top of my head which has the best geocoding service, but that's what you're looking for if you have text. And again, there's limitations as well with geocoding. So if you're doing geocoding with ArcGIS, you can only do 3,500 points. Mapbox, I'm not sure if there's a 3,500 limit. I'd have to look that up in the documentation. And obviously Power BI Map only does 3,500 anyway. So I tend to not geocode too much because I'm usually got more than 3,500 points. But if you have under 3,500 points, then yes, you can geocode. But yeah, it's down to the service that they're using for geocoding.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. So the next one we're going to move on to is a shape map. So with the shape map in Power BI Desktop, I am using, so there's two, you can see the two options here. I'm not using this field map. The field map's not so great. I'm using the shape map, which is in preview. If you want to use it, you have to turn it on. It's been in preview for a very long time, so I feel sorry for it years, I think. But shape map is always in preview, and you need to open it up. But I actually love shape map. It's quite unique in a sense that if the map is not the main focus of my report, I don't get all the distraction, of the rest of the map, and it just gives like just the shape map and nothing else. So I do like it. I use this one quite a bit. So, I've got no roads, no distractions, no other areas. It just gives you the shape, and it fills in the shape with the colors that you select. Because it does have tooltips, which I like. So I can, there's a red there. So I live there in Casey. That's my local government area. And you can set up a tooltip with this one. And so it gives a little bit more interactivity. But I use this one quite a bit, especially when it's not the main focus of my report. So I just want to map over the side to kind of highlight certain areas as people are interacting with it. So as for the options, so if I jump in here, I've got the shape. So it does have some set ones. So in the USA, you've got states. In Australia, I've got states. So there are some set shape files in there. But what I've done is I've brought in my own shape file, which you can do as well. Because this map is actually at local government area, which isn't one of the defaults. So it's limited unless you want to go at a high level state level, but you can bring in your own shape file, which is good. So I do like this one here, which is the shape map, which is in preview. And again, obviously, I'm doing colors by the amount of accidents. So that's the shape map. ArcGIS is quite good as well. I've given it 4 out of 5 stars. And the reason I like ArcGIS, and once it allows us to publish to web, I'll probably be using it a lot more, is that the shape files, as we saw before, are already pre-built in, but there's a lot more pre-built in. So if I go into the options here, and what I'm looking at here is we go to layer list, layer, location type. So here, so I'm selecting boundaries. I'm choosing one country, which is Australia. And you can see here I have a whole heap of pre-built location types. So postcodes, statistical areas that come from our census, local government areas is the one that I'm using here. But it's great because it's already pre-built and I don't have to go and pull in a shapefile all the time. It's already there for me. And for you guys in the States, you'll have a lot more options as well. So if I go there to United States, okay, not as many, but so you've got countries, states, zip codes, districts, etc. So it's already pre-built in there, and that's why I do like it. If I want to build something quickly, and I'm matching with one of these shape areas, I'll always go to ArcGIS because it's a lot quicker for me to build. All right. Again, I also like it because of the color palette has the different layers, which is a bit of an advantage over Mapbox as well. So in Mapbox, I'll just expand that one. Now it doesn't have, if I go, so it's referred to as chloropleth here. So if I open up chloropleth, it has many layers, so I can create multiple layers here. So at the moment I've got 2, but you can have many layers and then drill down to different shapes, which is good. So you can set up the drill down here. I think I did set one up on here. So if I click on here, it'll then allow me to drill down. Zoomed out, but allow me to drill down and I can have different layers of shapes here. So the next layer down is different from certain. So I think you can have maybe up to 10 different layers. So that's pretty cool. The other very cool thing is 3D maps. So if I hold Control and I can zoom and make this map 3D. And all that does is, I'm adding another attribute to the map. So here I have the color as the amount of accidents, and I also have the color as the height of the polygon here. So Melbourne has the highest. So I can zoom in, and holding control, I can set the map, and I can leave it set like this at a certain layer like that. And all I needed to do to get that to work was to add, an attribute here into size, count, and that's what that's doing there. So it's super easy to make a 3D map. I can rotate it and move it around. I can drill down as well. I can set visibilities by zoom level. So it's really customizable in the certain things you can do in the choropleth option here. The colors, it's a min, median, max. Not as good as a palette, but here's the extrusion pitch, which I can set as well. And again, different layers. It's very limited on what you can set. So if I turn this off and go to, well, I don't even have to turn it off. So here you can see I have a countries layer, states in the US and postcodes in the US, and that's all you get. So it's not really meant for kind of pre-built shapefiles. You really have to have your own shapefile, and you need to be able to bring it in, which to do that, you need a Mapbox account, and you do that via Mapbox Studio, which I won't be covering here. Any questions about shapefiles?
Shape files in specific, anybody? Not seeing anything in chat yet. So I think you may be good, Warren, until I
Good.
stop you later.
Yeah, no stress. So yeah, I suppose to summarize this one, I use this quite a bit. If the map isn't the main focus of my report, I use ArcGIS if I want to get up something quickly and it matches the shapefile. And then Mapbox, I'll use, 3D maps are probably not the best user experience anyway, but there's something that's pretty interesting if you want to do things a little bit differently. But if I have a custom shape map that I need to use and I need to bring it in, I'll use a Mapbox. So the last one for comparing the three is we're going to look at base maps and the different things you can do with base maps. So with the Power BI map, it's a little bit limited in what you can do. So they do have some base map options. If I go into the options here, and we'll go into base map, which one? I've got to remember where it is. Map styles. So I have 5 options here: grayscale, even aerial. So even with this map, I think it's using TomTom, I can drop in and get some really good, when I'm trying to find an accident, here's an accident, and, I can get right down and see, the buildings and the road and the trees. So that's quite good. But essentially that's all you can do with base maps with this standard Power BI map. ArcGIS, you can do some pretty cool things with a base map, or it's not really a base map, it's called a reference layer. So in this example here, what I'm going to do is I open up this button here, and I think it's in analysis tools, click on that. And this green one here is reference layer. I'll just zoom in so you can see where that one is. Now, in the reference layer, there's a few options. Now, I've never used this because I don't live in the USA, but for you guys, there is your demographics, so your census data is already kind of pre-built in here. So you can just drop that as a layer in a map. So if you're working on something and you want to have a look at the USA population growth from 2020, you can just add that in as a reference layer. So obviously being in Australia, that's not much use to me. And the other thing that you can do is go to ArcGIS. And for me, I can say Victoria. And this is ArcGIS online. And if I zoom in here so you can see, all these kind of maps or reference layers are pre-built. So what you have here is, you can build them yourself if you know how to use ArcGIS. And what we have is you can build it, you can get someone else to build them for you, but any reference you can put in here. So in this example here, I've got local government areas, and then I have my points on it as well. So it is, again, another way, as I mentioned, you can't take data from your data set and put it on twice into a map, so have a shapefile for one and circles for another. You can't do that, but you can have a reference layer. And so here, this is giving some information about local government areas, and then I still have my points on top of that. So that's reference layers in ArcGIS. Sorry, I'm not sure if you saw my little one came in and stole my phone. So the next one we have is Mapbox, and I'll open up Mapbox. Mapbox again is quite good. So in this example here, what I'm looking at is, so it's not called reference layer, it's called a base map, and I can create my own base maps. So I've done this before. So let's say I just want a map that has all landmarks, or I want a map that shows all the water areas, or parks, parks green and water areas blue. You can create your own custom base map in Mapbox, and then use that as a layer. So what I've done here is, so we have crashes. I took a CSV that had the latitude and longitude of every school. And so what I did was I just created an icon with that. And so now I can zoom into these areas here and see schools and see where there are accidents close to schools. So again, I can't interact with this base map or the points there. But what I can do is, have this kind of base map reference layer where it's kind of built. So, I can't click these schools, but I can, as a spatial reference, have a look. So I've used this to look at, school crossings and to understand if there was any accidents near to school crossings when I was back working in local government scene. So yeah, so for ArcGIS and for Mapbox, I've given them both, 5 out of 5. So both two kind of different things you can do. So this one is more, I can kind of build my own map using, a CSV and with latitude and longitudes, or customize the base map. You can customize base maps in ArcGIS as well, but you need ArcGIS Online. You can create these kind of shape reference layers, which is quite powerful and allows you to have two different layers in a map. And these ones are clickable. So unlike here, if I want to know what this area is, I can click on it and it does give me information about it. So any questions about that? If not, I will show you Azure Maps and then we'll finish up.
Any questions? Again, throw them in the chat. Feel free to jump off mute on the base map. I did see Thomas was wondering, so your child took your phone, but it's still the hotspot for the presentation. How is that happening?
Hopefully she doesn't move too far away. We'll find out.
So you can join the chat if she likes. If she wants to present, love to have her start her new Power BI career.
Yeah, why not? She'll be on YouTube soon enough.
I did see a question. Doesn't circle base map in Power BI allow for sizing?
So circle base map for sizing does here. So if I drop something in there, I'd see different sizes.
Gotcha.
So I think all of them allow for sizing.
All right, now the favorite part. We're so excited to hear the Azure.
Everyone is keen on Azure. So I'll show you the Azure maps.
Azure.
So there's a lot of options in Azure Maps. So I'm kind of excited to see where it goes. And it's quite clean the way it kind of zooms in and zooms out, and it has custom or report tooltips, which I love. So it has all that. So here what I have is I have those same points separated with different colors by LGA. So I'm using the legend here. I can use the size as well. So here we have severity. So There's some bigger ones in here. It's a little bit hard to see because there's so many points, but if I zoom in, here we can see some bigger circles that show the severity is bigger. I have tooltips as well, which is great. We'll just jump into the options. So here I have bubbles. We can turn the bubbles off and use the bar chart. And what that does is it then, makes them come out. So a little bit more interesting. So now I have a height, and I can set the height, but I can't, it's not as we were doing in Mapbox before where the height is based on an attribute. Now, I'm just setting the height. So it's not as if, there's a different attribute and I can have something higher or lower. Actually, just give it. Actually, no, it does go a bit higher on certain ones. So if we zoom in here, but I think this will just be maybe there's 2 or 3 accidents on the same latitude and longitude. So I couldn't change it and have, a different attribute for height. So, severity, having a higher severity being higher, I would have to make that in here what I'm counting. Oh, you don't actually have an option for it. So you do just have to put it in size. So severity is what I have. So sorry, it is on severity. So you do have to set a size and it does do the height. So I was wrong there.
Do you know how many points the Azure map allows compared to the other ones?
Yeah, good question. So if we zoom out, I'd have to read the documentation, but here we can see, so I have 8,000 points here and it seems like it's picking them all up. So I would assume it's the 30,000 limit, which is the most that you can have in a visual is 30,000. So here that's definitely got the 8,000. So I'd assume it's got the 30,000 limit as well. It does. I find it's a little bit slow when I'm using the bar chart option. So it's rendered now, so you're not going to see it. But maybe if I move away and come back, it does go in, and then if we go back, so now it's on bar chart. So on bar chart, it takes a little bit longer to render there. You can see it's got the points and it still hasn't. Let's see if we zoom in. So it's a little bit slow with 8,000 points, but so it is getting there. And some of the other options that we have, oops, sorry, just select the map. So again, you do have reference layers. You would have to add your own reference layers in here. It has traffic layer, which is cool. So if we turn on traffic layer, and then if I pick show incidents, and you can see here, so this will be connected, to an API that has incidents. And here, if I click on this live incident, it's telling me that this road is closed, how long the road is, and it's closed. So all these kind of traffic layer is really cool. I'd hope eventually you'd be able to expand that and bring in your own because it's pretty awesome. Traffic control. So we'll see if some little bubbles pop up for this one as well. I'm not sure if that's me lagging or it's not popping up, but it was similar to the incidents before. And you can also bring in your own tiles as well, which is good. Turning off zeros, showing negatives. So map settings, you can make the world wrap and things like that. So, I mean, I've probably shown you some of the highlights for this one, but yeah, I'm excited to see, what else they're doing with the Azure maps. It looks like there's a lot of potential with what you can do with that. Any questions about Azure maps? I'll have to do a full demo once once it's just kind of waiting till it jumps out of preview.
You'll have to come back, Warren, which you're always welcome.
Yeah, no, I definitely will.
Yeah,
All right,
Ray
so
just said, reference layers in Azure Maps. That's definitely a big capability that they're providing.
it's awesome. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, happy if anyone, if you have questions, you think about a question later, feel free to reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn. I do have, a training course. It's not really your standard training course. It's more, in regards to maps and demographics. It's very government based. So if you're interested in that type of training, do reach out. Otherwise, thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
Warren, thank you so much. If everybody wants to come off mute and give Warren a standing ovation, it's rare that we get to talk about. Thanks, Warren, from hailing all the way from Australia. You want to drop some of the links in the message so people can follow you and get your content before you jet out for lunch? Please do.
Thanks, everyone.